Hello and welcome to for Anphony Castle of Chapter 2 of my 0% growths run of Genealogy of the Holy War. So the first thing you're going to notice is that I placed these units directly south of those border guards that are about to turn into enemies. While this seems risky, for some reason their AI is programmed such that they will never attack my units on the first turn. They become enemies unless I stand directly adjacent to them. So I can get away with being super close to them. It would be possible for me to put units next to them to deal damage to them immediately, but I'm trying to hold off their attacking them until the next turn because, well, I'll describe it once I get there. So I'm just continuing all the side objectives, which is funneling as much experience into Lachesis as possible. She really needs to promote, which is why I'm having Ira continuously lose in the arena. So now the group of Free Knights goes out and the armors, and as you can see, for some reason those Lance Knights are not attacking me. So over here I got two new units, Levin and Sylvia, who are two of the most important units of the run. Levin just has, well, he's amazing. He has great base stats, good promotion gains, two powerful skills, and continuing critical, and once I give him the pursuit ring, that only weakness goes away. His evade is high enough to make up for his low defense. He's the best weapon type in the game. Wind magic is super light, hits resistance, has 1 to 2 range, and furthermore he gets a ridiculous holy weapon later on. So he comes at a very opportune time because Sigurd is beginning to drop off, and I need someone else to carry the second half of this generation. Sylvia is a dancer, refreshes units. They're always amazing in low turn count runs, especially in Fire Emblem 4, because they can refresh 4 units, units on every side of them instead of just one, like in other games, making her great. So there isn't too much to say about this chapter. It's another mad rush to the gate with a fair bit of rigging, but there are a few side objectives. First of all, one of the Free Knights to the north, Beowulf, can be recruited by a unit that has 10,000 gold, and he isn't the best unit, but he does a little bit, so we want to recruit him. His base stats are actually only slightly worse than Sigurd's, so you'd think he'd be great, but Sigurd is falling off as it is, and he also has the added benefit of one more move, lance use, which is very useful, and leadership, so Beowulf sees very little use. Another goal is to kill the boss of the Free Knights, Volts, because he drops an elite ring, which is an item that doubles the experience of whoever's carrying it in their inventory, which proves invaluable for power leveling Lachesis. The issue is Volts, the enemy that carries it, is a very strong boss and very tough to kill on 0% growths. He has lots of health, the continues skill, and deals a lot of damage against their characters with weak defenses. So you'll see, but I devised a pretty reliable way to deal with him. It has maybe about 15% chance of success, which is pretty good compared to a lot of other things in this run. So thankfully Midir's missed. He needs to keep his health back, and the reason I wanted to avoid fighting those Lance Knights until the second turn is that for some reason they're considered to be in the same squad as the rest of the Free Knights. So attacking them triggers them to move, and the way I triggered them to move means that I triggered exactly such that I could bait out Volts and recruit Beowulf while not having to fight the rest of the Free Knights and seize before the rest of them can connect with my army. And the reason I'm so insistent upon doing this is that my units are quite weak, and they really, even with a bunch of rigging, wouldn't have the power to deal with both the Free Knights and the Armored Knights at once. So I baited them out at exactly the right turn so that I wouldn't have to fight them. I just sniped this. So this fight's about to come up. As you can see, I'm making sure that only Midir is in range to deal a little bit of damage before the fight starts. And once again, working on my secondary objectives. Dew is getting sent north to collect a bunch of gold at those villages because everyone who needs it is too busy off elsewhere doing things, so that he can dump it on probably Lachesis, but depending on how things go, with money, I might also give it to Sigurd so that he can buy more things for his son. I'm not bothering fighting most of these bandits, simply because I'm clearing Anphony Castle so fast that they'll disappear and won't have time to really destroy anything. Now that Azel and Aideen have warped to do over, they're heading back towards the main castle. They have to do a bit of warping duty later on, warping Sylvia to MacLily after it's done to help refresh some units, so they're just heading back. Neither unit does much throughout the playthrough besides building up lover points, and Lex is losing in the arena to allow Lexus to heal him. It must be great to be a doctor in the Fire Before world with all the near-death experiences my units have to be saved from in the arena. So here I probably could have spent a while to rig Midir using charge to kill that Bone Knight, but would have taken ages and wasn't necessary, so I didn't. And now is a highly abusive turn where I take advantage of every skill. First of all, you can see that Finn earlier, I rigged him to get hit by Ballista, reduce him to 21 health. This is because these Axe Knights deal exactly 20 damage to him, reducing him to 1 health. And because of his Evade's prayer skill, it boosts his evade by 100, meaning that none of these units really have any chance of hitting them. I think the highest hit rate any of them has like an 8%. But because he's at 1 health and the AI doesn't realize that prayer is a thing, they all attack him anyways, meaning that I can put more vulnerable units, such as Ethlin, who is killed in, who's two-shotted, can still be put really far forward without much risk, because simply won't get attacked. More rigging, taking advantage of all the skills I can. It probably isn't necessary because Finn baits so many attacks, but I just wanted to make sure that there was a clear path, because on the turn after this one, I'm seizing. And putting Ethlin super far forward is pivotal to the boss kill. She needs to be positioned so that she can set off a sibling crit with Sigurd. And she also moves forward so that she can help support Quan by giving him a lover crit. So he has 36 attack with the Silverlands, which is doubled to 72. So, oh, well, I'm doing that later. First I'm doing this. This crit isn't necessary, so you could easily dodge the Axe Knight, but it just worked out so that it was a lover crit before a dodge for some weird reason. And now I'm rigging for a crit for Quan, I believe, though maybe for Noish. Okay, so he gets a lover crit with the Silverlands. That's 72 attack power, which is pretty ridiculous. Critical's just an amazing skill in this game. Like, it's good that they nerfed critical hits in future games. I'm positioning Noish and Midir so they don't get slaughtered. And Quan directly in range of Volts. And now I'm RNGing, abusing a bit so that Levin takes out this unit. I guess it's strictly not necessary to kill him because he'd disappear on the next turn, but the extra experience is nice. I also need to get Levin promoted by Chapter 4 because that's the point where he needs to solo the rest of the generation. But it's not too hard to reach him there because he does a lot of fighting in the next chapter. Unfortunately, he can't do much in this chapter because he's positioned terribly. He's just in the middle of nowhere and needs to spend time recruiting a unit later in the chapter, so not much for him to do. And now Lex will begin heading towards the pass up there because he needs to support in the fight on MacLily Castle, which is where all the infantry is going. Except for Aideen and Azel because they need to spend every turn glued together. Now the positioning I had up there with Finn going into prayer range is actually a very reliable strategy. I have to do very little RNG manipulation to make it work because pretty much the only thing necessary is that Ethlin doesn't get hit twice, which is incredibly unlikely to happen because she has high evade, has both sibling, leadership, and lover bonuses to evade, and is usually only attacked by Finn, because as you can see, they're all going after Finn, because they think he's squishy and easy to kill, when in reality he's very tough to kill because his evade is boosted by 100. So yeah, everything just works out on this phase. Not much at risk. Lucky with that Quan dodge, but it wasn't necessary, as long as he didn't proc continue. So now just rigging a continue for Quan so that he can finish off Volts. I could also rely on hits from Midir and Noish, but it was just most convenient to do it this way. Anything would work. And he's moving there so that he can get returned on the next turn. So now we go and recruit Beowulf, takes 10,000 gold. He does one thing, he saves one turn in Chapter 3, besides that is useless, but it's worth it. Noish doesn't need the money anyways. And now they're just taking out that sword armor to clear the path forward. Finn helps out. That's pretty much the last you'll see of him in this run. And now Ethlin returns Quan so that he can help Sigurd out at Mac Lily without trailing behind. Now I'm doing a bunch of RNG abuse. This boss kill strategy on Macbeth is terrible, has slightly more than 1% chance of working, so it requires a lot of rigging. Skip ahead to 12:58 in the video if you don't want to watch all this RNG abuse that I will not be talking over. So that's the end of that. Now Sigurd needs 2 sibling crits to kill Macbeth with the Steel Lance, and he's just a complete badass and does it. It's completed in 13 turns. The only way to make this faster is to make the chapter before faster, which is impossible on 0% growth. So this is the best turn count possible for chapter 2 thus far. So Sigurd seizes the gate.